A whisper rises from the stillness, not from the outside world, but from a place deeper than thought, a chamber inside the soul where sound was never silenced, only forgotten. You were taught to ask, taught to kneel before the universe as if you were small, powerless, dependent on divine mercy. But that was never the truth. There is a frequency sealed within you, not a metaphor, a living code. It hums beneath your breath, beneath the noise of culture, memory, fear. It waits not to be earned, but to be remembered. And once remembered, it does not beg, it speaks. The voice within you is not soft because it is weak. It is soft because it is sacred. And sacred things do not shout. They resonate. This is not a video. This is not entertainment. This is a ritual, a returning, a key turning quietly in the lock of your own being. And the door it opens is you. Are you ready to hear what was never lost, only silenced? Then enter, not with your mind, but with your breath, with your presence. And listen. The universe does not listen to pleading. It reflects signals. It responds not to volume, but to clarity. It does not weigh your words for worthiness, nor measure your prayers against a moral scale. What it mirrors is simple vibration, the pure frequency of your being, unspoken but constant. You were not sent here to wait. You were not born into this body to be a passive receiver of divine handouts. You came to shape, to speak, to signal. You are not the one who knocks, hoping the door will open. You are the one who remembers there was never a door. Every moment of your life has been answering a question you didn't know you were asking, not with your voice, but with your state. Every experience, every delay, every no, every silence. It wasn't the universe rejecting you. It was the universe echoing you. What you carry within becomes the blueprint for what forms around you. This is the quiet mechanics of creation. You do not receive what you wish for. You receive what you stabilize. And so the deeper truth is this. You have never been a beggar. You have only been unaware of your signal. The field, the energetic lattice of potential that surrounds you is precise. It is not random. It is not waiting for proof of your goodness or desperation. It simply calibrates. It tunes itself to the resonance you emit in your most unguarded moments. Not when you meditate, not when you affirm, but when you simply are. When your body slumps with doubt. When your inner monologue loops in fear. When you second-guess the very spark of your own longing. That is when the universe listens most clearly. And so you must ask, not what am I saying, but what am I vibrating? Because if your words say, I trust, but your energy whispers, I doubt, it is the whisper that becomes command. If your lips declare, I am ready, but your inner field quivers with hesitation, the field reflects back, only waiting. Reality is not a judge, it is a mirror, and mirrors do not lie, but this is not punishment. This is permission. This is where your power begins, not with effort, but with coherence. Not with perfection, but with alignment. You don't need to scream. You don't need to convince the stars to help you. You only need to remember that you are already part of the stars, that what you broadcast is not separate from the cosmos. It is the language it understands best. So bring your awareness to this moment. The inhale, the pause, the exhale, slow everything. Let the world outside blur. Let the noise dissolve. And now, within this soft space, ask yourself, not with urgency but with remembrance. What am I commanding with my being? Because the universe is not waiting to decide whether to bless you. It already is. It already has. It always will. The only question is, what are you tuning it to? And here in this breath, in this return to presence, let the answer rise not from your thoughts but from the space beneath them. You are not a beggar. You are the architect, and the field is listening. From the moment you learned to speak, the world began teaching you how not to. Not overtly, not through violence, but with reward, with praise, with the invisible currency of acceptance. You were applauded for repeating, not imagining, for remembering the right answers, not for asking deeper questions. You were conditioned to echo, not to create. And slowly, the language of your soul began to dim. You learned how to mimic what was safe, how to disguise your knowing beneath politeness, how to tuck your inner fire behind soft eyes and folded hands. And every time you did, the world smiled and called you good. But this goodness came at a cost. The cost was your voice. Not just the one that speaks, but the one that dreams. The story of who you are was written for you, long before you had a chance to author it yourself. It was scripted by culture, by history, by fear wrapped in tradition. You were handed names, beliefs, expectations, timelines, and told this is who you are. But beneath it all, something in you whispered, "No, I am more." Yet even that whisper was drowned by the hum of the system. A system that does not want architects. It wants workers. It wants obedience dressed as logic. It wants stillness that isn't peace but paralysis. And so you became a character in someone else's play, wearing a mask called me, performing a life that never felt fully yours. You smiled on cue. You doubted your intuition. You shrank your visions to fit inside approved boxes. This wasn't failure. This was programming. Subtle, generational, internalized, but not irreversible, because within you still lies the original script, untouched, uncensored, etched into the deepest strands of your frequency, not the voice the world shaped, but the one it tried to bury. The voice that doesn't ask to be chosen because it remembers it was never separate to begin with. To awaken it, you must first see the mask, not judge it, not hate it, simply see it. The mask called should, the voice called not enough, the belief called realistic. You do not fight these shadows, you name them. Because once a spell is named, it begins to break. And once it breaks, the silence around your true voice begins to crack. And something old, something sovereign, begins to rise, not louder, but clearer. This is how the reclamation begins, not with noise, but with noticing, not with doing, but with remembering. You were never meant to be a copy. You were born to be a code, and codes are not taught. They are revealed. Emotions do not shape reality. Intention does. Not the kind of intention you write down in journals or chant in the morning, but the kind that lives beneath your breath, the silent directive of your being. That is what the universe responds to. Not your voice, but your resonance. Vibration never lies. It is the most honest thing about you. You can say all the right words, feel all the right feelings, believe all the affirmations. But if your energy contradicts your declarations, the field will always mirror the energy. The cosmos does not respond to performance. It responds to coherence. And coherence is born from clarity. You do not manifest from emotional highs or desperate longing. You manifest from the stability of a signal that does not waver in the face of appearances, a frequency that holds steady not because of force but because of alignment. The universe is not a mind. It does not reason. It is a field that calibrates to precision. And the most precise signal is not thought. It is being. What are you being when no one is watching? What are you transmitting in the in-between spaces? When the room is quiet and the mask is off and your spine softens back into truth, what is pulsing from you then? That is what the universe hears. Not what you think, not what you feel, but what you are. And the language it speaks is not made of syllables, it is made of tone, consistency, presence, intention without fracture. So if you feel like the field is not responding, ask not what more you must do, but what frequency you are unconsciously maintaining. Because energy is not delayed, it is exact. It returns to you the shape of your own coherence. You are not punished for your contradictions, but you are mirrored in them. And this is not to shame you, it is to awaken you, to remind you that you are not a slave to mood. You are the conductor of current, which means you are not at the mercy of emotion. Emotion is feedback, vibration is directive. When you shift your vibration, you shift the command. And the clearest commands are not desperate or loud. They are still. They are whole. They are remembered. So let your presence become language. Let your steadiness become the code. And speak not with your mouth but with the tone of your life. Because in the end, your frequency is not just an echo. It is a command. Every moment you are sending a signal, whether you know it or not, whether you mean to or not. A pulse moves from you into the field, an unspoken directive, a silent resonance. That signal does not ask permission. It declares. It emerges either from fear or from remembrance, from contraction or from coherence, from survival or from sovereignty. And the field, the living fabric of potential that surrounds all things, responds instantly, not because it judges, not because it favors, but because it reflects, like a mirror, like water, like a code returning to its source. Reality does not care if your intention is good or bad, noble or selfish. It does not divide experiences into reward and punishment. It is neutral, pure, responsive. It mirrors the strongest frequency you offer, and it does so without delay. Not because it is intelligent, but because it is precise. What you see around you is not the result of morality. It is not karma in disguise. It is feedback, quantum feedback. The field is not mystical, it is mechanical. And once you understand this, the shame begins to melt because you realize you're not broken. You're just broadcasting a fragmented signal, and that signal can be tuned. This is not wishful thinking. This is physics, the observer effect, entanglement, superposition. These are not just words from textbooks, they are sacred architecture, the foundation upon which your everyday unfolds. And you are not a victim of this architecture. You are its speaker. So look at your life, not with blame but with awareness. What keeps repeating? What refuses to shift? What patterns play out no matter how much effort you pour into their escape? These are not punishments. They are reflections. The mirror is not cruel, it is clear. And in that clarity you are offered a choice, not to fix, but to retune, not to struggle, but to realign. Because every image in the mirror begins with the hand that lifts it, and that hand is yours. You choose what reflection you anchor through your state, your story, your tone. And once you stop reacting to the reflection and begin adjusting the broadcast, the field obeys. Not slowly, not eventually, but now. Because reality is not static, it is immediate. And the most powerful transmission does not come from effort, it comes from remembrance. So remember the frequency beneath the noise. Remember the voice beneath the thought. Remember the image you came here to reflect, because the mirror is waiting, and it does not lie. The words you speak are not sounds, they are keys, codes, frequency wrapped in form. Every syllable you release shapes the field, not because of what it means, but because of what it carries. When you say, "I am," you do not merely describe yourself. You cast, you declare, you initiate a reality. "I am" is not a phrase, it is a portal, a gateway through which energy collapses into form. But the true command doesn't live in the mouth. It lives in the vibration underneath it. Because the universe does not hear what you say. It hears who you are when you say it. You can speak of abundance from a place of fear, and the field will mirror fear. You can speak of trust from a place of doubt, and the field will echo doubt. Language is not about diction. It is about resonance. Every inner phrase, every whisper in your mind, is a message sent into the quantum web. And the most powerful of these messages are the ones unspoken, the ones you repeat in silence, on autopilot, without ever questioning their origin. I am tired. I am stuck. I am not ready. These are not harmless thoughts. They are codes. And the universe, ever faithful, ever exact, responds not with evaluation but with reflection, because it does not filter through logic. It listens through law, quantum law. Your field is shaped by tone, not intention, by identity, not effort. So the question is not, what do I want to create? The question is, who am I being when I speak? Because the sacred command is not in the sound itself. It is in the clarity behind it, the certainty, the congruence. When there is no contradiction between thought, body, voice, and presence, your word becomes reality, not eventually, immediately. This is the essence of creation. You speak not to convince the universe. You speak because you are the universe, remembering its own power. Manifestation is not a spiritual game for those with the strongest belief. It is not wishful thinking dressed in sacred language. It is structure. It is physics. It is precision. You do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you are aligned with. Always. This is not mystical. This is mechanical. The quantum field does not respond to your hopes. It responds to your consistency. It responds to your coherence. It responds to your identity. Hope is beautiful, but it is not a frequency. It wavers. It waits. It assumes a distance between where you are and what you long for, but alignment collapses that distance. It dissolves the illusion of separation. The observer effect in quantum physics reveals something ancient in scientific terms. What you observe with presence becomes real. What you witness with full attention begins to take form. Not because your eyes are magic, but because attention is activation. When you place unwavering presence on a possibility, You signal the field to collapse that possibility into form. It moves from potential to pattern to particle, not by chance, by resonance. And this is why manifestation feels broken for so many. They ask for one thing but live in contradiction. They desire clarity but speak chaos. They visualize abundance while embodying lack. The universe cannot override the mismatch. It is not cruel, it is coherent. It is obedient to the strongest signal. So if what you want has not arrived, look not at the world, but at the signal behind the wanting. Do you carry it in stillness or in struggle? Do you align with its presence or rehearse its absence? Because reality is not waiting to bless you. It is simply following your lead. You do not create by wishing. You create by becoming. Manifestation is not magic. It is memory. It is you remembering how to return to the frequency that matches the life already waiting in the field. And once you do, once alignment replaces effort, manifestation is no longer a mystery. It is math, it is now. A strong signal does not need to be repeated. It does not beg. It does not plead. It does not ask for reassurance. It simply is. You do not need to shout to be heard by the universe. You only need to stop whispering contradictions. Because when your being is aligned, when your intention is undivided, your presence speaks louder than any affirmation ever could. The one who remembers who they are does not ask for permission. They broadcast, not as a performance, not as manipulation, but as coherence embodied. They do not visualize from a place of distance. They become the vision itself. They do not say, I hope one day. They live, I already am. This is not arrogance, it is clarity. It is the difference between trying to attract and radiating as the thing itself. You cannot deceive the field with hopeful mantras. It mirrors the undercurrent of your being. So speak not from desire, but from remembrance. Do not say, I want to be loved. Be love in form. Do not say, I wish I was free. Walk as one who has already unshackled. The power of unwavering intention is not in the words you choose, but in the signal you embody. Day after day, breath after breath, even when nothing seems to change yet, because reality bends not to your desire, but to your dominion, and dominion comes not from force, but from the still, resolute presence of one who knows they are source in motion. This is the practice of the one who remembers. Not I hope, but I am. Not someday, but now. The voice in your head is not just thought, it is code. It is the quiet architect of your reality, writing, rewriting, looping instructions into the field even when your mouth is silent. Especially then, every inner phrase becomes a command. When you say, I always fail, you are not expressing emotion. You are delivering a blueprint. When you whisper to yourself, I'm not enough, you are not sharing a doubt. You are transmitting structure. The universe is not judging your inner voice, but it is echoing it. What you repeat, it builds. What you affirm in silence, it mirrors in form. And this is where the deepest programming lies. Not in your affirmations, but in your assumptions. Not in what you say out loud when you're trying to shift, but in what you mutter internally when you think no one's listening. Because someone is listening. Reality is listening. The field is always tuned in to the frequency beneath the noise. So if your outer world feels misaligned, look not at what you're trying to manifest, but at what you're silently rehearsing. These internal scripts, they don't just shape your mood, they sculpt your field, and that field obeys clarity. So what do? You don't fight the thoughts. You observe them. You meet them with awareness, not resistance. And you rewrite gently, truthfully, consistently. Not with frantic affirmations, but with quiet replacements. I always fail becomes. I am learning to trust my own momentum. I'm not enough becomes. I am already whole, returning to remembrance. Because your inner voice is a signal tower. And what you broadcast there, before sleep, after waking, in moments of stillness, becomes the foundation your life rests upon. So clean it, tend to it like a sacred space. Speak to yourself, not as a broken one reaching for healing, but as a remembered being clearing static from your channel. You don't need louder thoughts. You need purer tone, because the universe isn't waiting for better words. It's already answering the ones you've whispered the longest. When all sound falls away, when the noise of trying, proving, fixing dissolves into stillness, what remains is rhythm, not the ticking of clocks, not the tempo of striving, but the ancient pulse of your own heart, a temple drum, a sacred beat. It does not ask questions, it remembers. You were never missing the power. You only misplaced your attention. You do not need more tools. You do not need more teachings. You do not need another permission slip from someone outside you. You need to come back, inhale, drop in. Feel the steady thrum beneath your ribs. That is not just biology. That is the gate. The universe is not separate from you. It is the echo chamber of your command. And now that you have remembered the code, now that your voice is no longer scattered, now that the static is fading, you are ready, not to hope, not to try, but to speak. And when you speak from the temple within, when your words rise from alignment instead of fear, the field does not hesitate, it responds. You do not need to see it happen. You only need to know it is done, not because you forced it, because you remembered. And in this stillness, in this sacred return, there is nothing left to ask, only to declare, I am. And so it is.